Today, we're diving into a crucial piece of World War II tech. It's a story about a rugged metal box born out of a crisis that literally became the voice of Allied tanks. This is the story of the wireless set number 19. So just think about this for a second. You've got these incredibly powerful fighting machines, right? Tanks. But what if they can't talk to each other? What if they can't coordinate? Can't call for help, can't warn the tank next to them about an ambush? Well, this wasn't some hypothetical. This was the terrifying reality facing the British military. The evacuation from Dunkirk, it was a miracle of survival, but it also laid bare a massive, gaping weakness. The army didn't just lose equipment, they realized their entire communication system was hopelessly out of date. They didn't just need a solution, they needed one like yesterday. Okay, so let's get into it. That chaos at Dunkirk basically created this insane pressure cooker moment. The British military's ability to even continue the fight now hinged on one thing: finding a way for its forces to talk to each other on a battlefield that was changing faster than ever before. A missing nervous system. That's really the perfect way to describe it. Without good radios, tanks were just these isolated metal beasts roaming around. They couldn't work together as a smart, cohesive unit, which was a deadly flaw in the kind of high-speed armored warfare that was taking over. So what was the answer to this massive problem? Well, it came in the form of this single, honestly brilliant piece of gear that was designed under the most intense pressure imaginable. And here it is, the wireless set number 19, or the WS-19 for short. Now, this wasn't just a radio. It was basically a whole communication center packed into one box. The real genius here was that it combined 3 different systems into a single, tough-as-nails unit that could actually survive being bounced around inside a tank. So how did this 3-in-1 thing actually work? Well, first you had the A set. Think of this as the long-distance line for talking to headquarters. Then you had the B set, which was for short-range, tank-to-tank chatter, right there in the thick of it. And finally, and this is crucial, it had a built-in intercom so the crew could actually hear each other over the insane roar of the engine. So on the battlefield, the A set gave you a voice range of about 10 miles. That connected the tank crew to the big picture, the main battle plan. The B set, though, that was for the immediate action, with a much shorter range of around 300 yards for talking to the tanks right next to you. This simple 2-layer system gave them this incredible new tactical flexibility. Of course, having a great design on paper is one thing, but actually building enough of these things and getting them out into the field, during a global war, that is a whole other challenge. The WS-19 had to become a real workhorse. Yeah, meeting the demand was just a monumental task. The original British company simply couldn't make them fast enough. So production had to expand, first across the UK, and then, and this was key, to Canada and the United States. It became this massive transatlantic allied project. And all these radios went, well, pretty much everywhere. They became the absolute standard for British and Commonwealth armor. They were vital in the deserts of North Africa and later all across Europe after D-Day. And they weren't just for tanks. They put them in trucks, Jeeps, you name it. And you find some really fascinating little details from this collaboration. For instance, thousands of these sets were shipped to the Soviet Union under the Lend-Lease program, and they were actually made with dual-language faceplates, with labels in both English and Russian Cyrillic for the Red Army crews. How cool is that? But, it wasn't perfect, especially the first version. The original Mark I model made it really slow for a whole squadron of tanks to tune to the same frequency. This process called netting, it was a real pain. So the later Mark II and III models fixed this by splitting the frequency band, which made the whole thing way faster and more reliable when it really mattered. And it wasn't just the A set. The short-range B set was supposed to have a 1,000-yard range, but in reality on the ground it was often closer to just 300 yards. It was a known flaw for sure. But in the middle of a war, a radio with a limited range was infinitely better than having no radio at all. But here's the thing. Despite those limitations, the WS-19 was a huge success, and its legacy, well, it lasted for decades after the war. Just to give you a sense of this thing, a complete WS-19 setup with the radio, its power supply, all the casing, weighed around 40 kilograms. That's about 88 pounds. This was a heavy, serious piece of military hardware, and it was absolutely built to last. I mean, just look at its service life. It's rushed into production in 1940 and serves through the entire war. But its story doesn't end there. In the 50s, it gets replaced on the front lines, but then in the 60s, it becomes a huge favorite for amateur radio fans. The design was so solid that British cadets were still using them for training into the mid-1970s. That's just incredible. And this quote really sums it all up. The WS-19 was a kind of technological bridge. It perfectly captured that moment in time, combining different types of radio tech into one rugged, innovative package. It really was the face of transitional World War II technology. So in the end, no, the wireless set number 19 wasn't perfect. It wasn't the most high-tech radio you could possibly dream up, but it was absolutely the right tool at the exact right time. It was tough, it was there, and it gave Allied armor the voice it so desperately needed to fight and win. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? The magic of the WS-19 wasn't some brand new invention from thin air. It was about cleverly combining existing technologies to solve a really urgent problem. And it makes you wonder, what modern tools, maybe even the phone in your hand right now, are doing the very same thing today? Thanks for joining us.